In the year 2475, humanity had already reached far into space. Colonies stood on distant worlds, and great ships crossed the stars. Yet still, there was mystery. The universe was wide and endless, and no matter how far humans traveled, there were always places they could not explain. On the edge of known space, near a dark, empty region, one small human research ship drifted in silence. Its crew had been searching for weeks, scanning strange signals that came and went without reason. Captain Arya stood at the viewing glass, staring at the darkness ahead. She had been in space for many years, and she thought she had seen everything. But this signal was different. It was old, older than any human signal. It carried a pattern that no computer could fully break. The crew grew tired, thinking it was nothing, but Arya was not ready to give up. She felt it deep in her bones. The signal was calling them. Then, without warning, the ship's scanners picked up a shape. At first it seemed like a shadow, a trick of the light. But as they drew closer, the shadow grew into something vast. It was not a planet, not an asteroid, but a structure. A giant construct hung in the void, larger than cities, stretching farther than the eye could see. Its surface was black and silver, broken in places, yet parts of it still glowed faintly as if alive. The crew fell into silence. They had expected ruins or rocks, but not this. No record spoke of such a thing. It had been waiting in the dark for millions of years, hidden until humanity stumbled upon it. Some whispered it must be a relic of a lost alien empire. Others said it looked more like a tomb. The ship drew closer. Strange symbols ran across the walls of the structure, glowing softly, almost like veins carrying light. The crew felt uneasy. Their hearts raced. It was as if the construct was watching them. The closer they came, the heavier the silence grew. Like unseen eyes were judging every move. Inside the command room, Arya gave the order to send a drone. The small machine slipped through the open cracks in the massive wall. Its light scanned long halls of metal and stone, walls covered in markings no one could understand. The hall seemed endless. And then the drone found a chamber. At the center stood a giant figure, shaped almost like a human, but far larger, carved in metal and crystal. The figure's eyes were shut, its arms folded as if in sleep. Around it stood rows of other shapes, also silent, also unmoving. The crew watched the live feed in shock. No one spoke. For a moment it looked like statues built to honor something long gone. But the scanner showed heat deep inside, like a slow heartbeat. Whatever this was, it was not dead. One crew member, a young engineer named Kai, leaned forward and whispered, "It's sleeping." The words spread through the room like fire. If it was sleeping, what would happen if it woke? Arya knew the danger, yet she also felt the pull of discovery. Humanity had always asked questions, had always pushed forward. She ordered the drone to move closer. As the drone's light touched the chest of the giant figure, the markings on the walls flickered. A low hum began, so deep it shook the drone's camera. The crew on the ship felt it through the hull like a giant heartbeat spreading into space. Warning lights flashed. The drone's systems went dark, then returned, but the chamber had changed. The figure's chest glowed faintly. "Captain," the navigator whispered, "I think we just activated something." A hum grew louder. The markings all across the chamber lit up one by one, spreading like fire racing along a fuse. The great figure's eyes moved. Slowly, with heavy force, they began to open. Light poured from within, not the light of machines, but something deeper. Something alive. On the ship, silence turned to panic. Some shouted to leave, to run before it was too late. Others argued they had to stay, to learn what this being was. Captain Arya's voice cut through the chaos. "Hold position." Her voice was steady, but inside her heart pounded. She knew they had stepped onto something far beyond human understanding. The chamber shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The giant figure's arms unfolded with a sound like mountains moving. A voice, low and powerful, rumbled through the chamber, not through speakers, but straight into the minds of those who listened. "Who disturbs the sleep of the gods?" Every crew member froze. No one dared to speak. The words were not human, yet every person understood them. Arya's hands tightened on the console. She had wanted to find answers, but now she feared the answers had found her. The figure lifted its head, and for the first time in millions of years, its glowing eyes looked upon humanity. The hum turned into a deep vibration that spread across the ship, across the stars themselves, as if the universe had been waiting for this very moment. Something old had awakened, and humanity was no longer alone. The ship trembled as the giant's eyes glowed brighter. The crew could not look away. It was not just light. It was something that pressed into their thoughts, filling their minds with fear and awe. They felt small, weaker than insects, yet unable to move. Captain Arya stood still, her breath heavy. She had faced storms in deep space. She had fought pirates and guided her ship through war zones, but nothing compared to this. The figure before her was not alive in the way she understood life, yet it was no machine either. It was something older, something powerful, something that carried the weight of stars within its body. The chamber shook again, as more markings on the walls began to shine. The light spread outward like waves, running across halls, doors, and corridors, reaching places the drone had not even entered. Systems that had been silent for millions of years were waking, one by one. The hum grew stronger. It was like a heartbeat, but not just inside the chamber. The whole ship felt it, every bolt and wire vibrating to the rhythm. Kai gripped the edge of his console. His voice shook. "Captain, it's not just one. There are more chambers. I can see energy spikes across the whole structure." Arya's chest tightened. If one being was waking, maybe others would too. She looked at the live feed from the drone. The giant's chest rose, as if it breathed for the first time. Its arms stretched wide, and when it moved, dust fell in heavy clouds. The weight of ages breaking apart. Then the voice came again, this time stronger. It was not sound carried through the air. It came from everywhere, from the walls, from the ship, from inside their heads. Who dares disturb the silence of eternity? The words echoed in the hearts of the crew. Their ears rang, their vision blurred. Some fell to their knees, holding their heads. Others whispered prayers. It was not only the voice of a being, it was the voice of something that had seen the birth of galaxies. The drone camera shook and then shut down completely. The crew was left staring at black screens. But even without the image, they knew. The figure was awake. A second later, the ship's sensors flashed with warning. Energy readings spiked higher than anything recorded. It was not a weapon, at least not yet. It was simply the being itself. Its body carried a power that the ship's systems could not even measure. The navigator whispered, "We should leave. If we stay, we die." But Arya could not move. She wanted to run, but her voice refused to give the order. Something inside told her that if they left now, the being would follow, and Earth itself would not be safe. Humanity had opened a door, and it could not be closed by turning away. The ship's lights flickered. The engines dimmed, then returned. The AI voice cut through the silence. "Warning. Unknown signal, infiltrating systems." The crew froze. Their ship was being scanned. Not just the ship, but them too. Each of them felt a cold touch deep in their mind, like invisible fingers reading their memories. They saw flashes of their own pasts, their families, their fears. Then it went deeper. The beings searched Earth itself. Images of cities, wars, history, and hope passed in an instant. Arya's vision filled with light. For a moment she was not on the ship. She was standing on Earth, watching the skies turn dark with fire, then bright with life, then dark again. She saw humanity crawling from caves, building empires, reaching the stars. She saw their mistakes, their blood, their courage. She gasped as the vision ended, and she was back on her ship. The giant's voice returned. This time it was softer, but still heavy with power. "Children of dust, you have touched the stars. You have awakened us." The crew held their breath. No one dared to answer. The being's eyes glowed brighter, like suns burning. Another sound came. This one was different. A distant roar, deep and angry, shook the walls. The readings showed movement in another chamber. More figures were stirring. Kai's hands trembled. "Captain, more of them are waking. At least 4. Maybe more." Arya's blood ran cold. She did not know if these beings were gods, machines, or something in between. But she knew one thing. Humanity had been noticed. And not all of these giants would see them as harmless. The first being turned its head as if listening. Then it spoke again. "Not all will welcome you. Some will see you as threat." Weeks later, when the footage was broadcast, people around the world watched in silence. Some were afraid. Others were inspired. But one line from Jack's final report became legend. Humanity isn't the strongest species. We're just the ones who never stop trying, even when the universe itself tells us to give up. And somewhere deep under the Arctic, far below the sleeping ice, the queen of another world listened to those words. Her eyes opened once more, glowing softly in the dark, and she smiled. The silence in the command room was broken only by the steady hum of the ship's systems. Every crew member stared at the glowing readings on the screen, their hearts racing. One figure had already risen, and now more were stirring inside the massive structure. The red eyes of the second giant burned like fire, and its voice still echoed in their minds. Captain Arya felt her chest tighten. Humanity had wanted answers, but now the answers were too big, too dangerous. The first giant raised its hand slowly. Its voice thundered once more, softer now, but no less powerful. "Calm, brother. The time of sleep has ended. The children of dust have woken us, and we must see what they have become." The red-eyed figure roared in reply, shaking the halls of the chamber. "They are nothing. Weak, short-lived, crawling in the dirt of stolen stars. We should destroy them before they spread further." The words stabbed through the crew like knives. Some of them trembled, some whispered to themselves, and some simply froze in their seats. To be judged so quickly, without even speaking, felt unbearable. Then something strange happened. The first figure turned its head toward the small human ship. Its eyes burned bright, and in that moment, every crew member felt it. The giant was looking at them, not with ordinary sight, but with something greater. It was as if the being saw every life at once, every choice. Every dream. Captain Arya stood tall, even though fear pressed down on her. She forced her voice to remain steady. "We are not here to fight. We are explorers. We only wish to learn." For a long moment, there was no answer. The giant's eyes pulsed with light, and then the voice came again, heavy and deep. "You call yourselves explorers, yet your hands are stained with war. I see your history. I see your fire. I see your blood." The crew gasped. They had not spoken of Earth, yet the being knew everything. It had reached into their memories and drawn out the story of humanity. Wars, greed, betrayal, but also courage, sacrifice, and hope. All of it lay bare before the awakened giants. The red-eyed figure laughed, a sound that shook the ship like thunder. "See, brother? They are no different from the others we destroyed. They will rise, they will burn, they will destroy even the stars if we let them." The first giant's voice rumbled low. "Perhaps, yet I see something else. They are fragile, yet they dream. They are broken, yet they rise again. There is potential in their weakness." Arya could barely breathe. These beings were not debating with her. They were debating about her, about all of humanity. And their decision could mean the end of everything. Kai leaned close to Arya, his voice a whisper. "Captain, if they choose to destroy us, there's nothing we can do. We can't fight them." Arya nodded. She already knew. Their weapons, their ships, even their colonies, none of it would matter against such beings. Humanity was nothing compared to them. But still, something inside her refused to give in. She raised her head and spoke again. "Maybe we have failed before. Maybe we have fought wars, hurt each other, made mistakes. But we have also built, healed, and hoped. We are not only what we were, we are also what we can become." The room fell silent. Even the hum of the construct seemed to fade. The giant with glowing white eyes tilted its head as if studying her words. Then it spoke again, and its voice was softer, almost thoughtful. "You speak with courage, small one." "Courage is rare among the children of dust," the red-eyed figure snarled. "Do not be fooled by words. They always lie. Their courage is only hunger for power." Another rumble shook the halls. More lights flickered in the distance. More chambers were waking. The crew realized with terror that the structure was not home to two beings alone. There were many more, and soon they too would rise. The first giant turned again to the humans. "Hear me. Some of us will see you as a flame worth protecting. Others will see you as a fire that must be put out. You have called us from sleep, and now you cannot return us to silence. You must face the judgment of the Eternals." The name struck deep in every mind. The Eternals, that was what they were called. And the name carried the weight of stars and time itself. Arya felt her hands shake, but she stood firm. She could not show weakness now. "If you must judge us, then at least see all of us. Not just our wars, but also our kindness. Not just our hunger, but also our hope." The first giant's eyes dimmed slightly, as if in thought. The red-eyed one leaned forward, its voice harsh like fire on metal. "Enough. We waste time. Let us show them the truth of gods." Its hand rose and power surged in the chamber. The readings on the human ship screamed with alarms. Energy beyond measure poured into the air. It was not an attack yet, but it was close, far too close. The crew cried out in fear, and then the first giant raised its arm, blocking the red-eyed one. "Not yet. Let them speak. Let them prove they are more than dust." The two titans faced each other, power against power, light against fire. The humans watched, trapped between them, helpless and afraid. They had not only awakened gods, they had awakened a conflict that had been sleeping for ages, and in the center of it stood humanity, small and fragile, yet now impossible to ignore. The command room shook as the two giants stared at each other. The crew felt trapped between forces far beyond their understanding. One being glowed with white light, calm yet heavy, while the other burned red with rage. More chambers stirred in the darkness, their walls glowing faintly, as if others were preparing to wake. The silence between the two giants was worse than noise, because the humans knew that whatever choice these beings made would decide their future. The red-eyed figure spoke first. "You defend them, brother, but you know what they are. You see their wars, their greed, their hunger. They will climb and climb until they break the stars themselves. Do you wish to wait for that day, or end them now while they are weak?" The white-eyed one lowered its head slightly. "I see their blood. Yes, I see their fire. But I also see their kindness. I see them stand for one another even when it costs them everything. That is not weakness. That is possibility." "Guy." The red eyes burned hotter. "Possibility is danger. We destroyed others for less. Do not forget why we slept. Do not forget what happens when children grow too strong." The words made the crew shiver. If these giants had destroyed others before, whole civilizations might have been wiped away by their hands. Humanity was not the first to face them. Only the latest. Kai whispered to Arya, his voice shaking. "Captain, we have to leave. We can't stay here. If they fight, we'll be destroyed with everything around us." Arya looked at the screens showing rising energy deep inside the structure. Kai was right. If these beings chose to unleash their power, their small ship would not survive even a second. But Arya's instincts told her leaving would not save them either. The giants would know where they came from. If they left, Earth itself would be the target. The white-eyed figure turned back to them. Its voice rolled like thunder, but carried a strange calm. "Listen, children of dust. Not all of us will see you as I do. Many will rise in anger. Many will call for your end. You must understand what you have done. You did not find ruins. You broke the seal of eternity. You woke the Eternals." The name filled the crew with cold fear again. The Eternals were not simply machines or gods. They were something in between, beings who had seen the birth of galaxies and perhaps shaped them. If they were divided among themselves, then humanity had awakened an ancient war. One that had only been sleeping until now. The red-eyed one raised its hand again. Energy swirling around it like fire ready to burn. They must not live. Not one more day. End them now before others wake and argue. The white-eyed giant stepped forward. Its presence shook the halls, but it did not strike. Instead, it spread its arms wide as if to block its brother. Enough. They are not your enemy yet. Give them the chance to show themselves. If they fail, then you will have your answer. But not here. Not now. The red eyes narrowed. For a moment, the humans thought the two would fight and their ship would be destroyed in the clash. But then the second figure lowered its arm. Its voice was low and dangerous. You delay the inevitable. When the others wake, their judgment will not be so soft. Let them prepare. Let them fear. And when the time comes, they will be ash beneath our feet. The giant turned away, sinking back into the shadows of its chamber. Its eyes dimmed, though they still burned faintly like coals waiting to rise again. The silence that followed felt even heavier than before. The first giant faced the humans again. Its glowing eyes pierced through the walls of the ship, straight into their souls. You have little time. My brothers and sisters will wake, and many of them will not show mercy. If you wish to survive, you must prove you are worthy of this galaxy. Show that you are more than destruction. Show that you can rise above the mistakes of those who came before. Arya forced herself to breathe. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. How can we prove it? The giant's light dimmed and grew bright again like a slow breath. That is for you to discover. But know this. You cannot run. The eyes of the Eternals are upon you now. Even in the farthest corner of the stars, you will not escape our gaze. The crew sat in silence, their hearts heavy. They had not just found an ancient structure. They had unlocked a test that could decide the future of all humanity. Then the giant stepped back into the chamber. Its eyes closed slowly, and its chest dimmed until only faint light remained. The hum quieted, though it never fully faded. It was not gone, only waiting. Arya finally spoke, her voice firm, even though her hand shook. Set course back to Earth. The world must know. The navigator hesitated. Captain, what if they follow us? Arya looked at the glowing chamber one last time. They don't need to follow. They already know where we came from. The engines roared to life, and the ship pulled away from the colossal structure. Behind them, the halls of the construct glowed faintly. More chambers stirred. More eyes prepared to open. The Eternals were not done, as the ship vanished into the dark of space. One last whisper reached the minds of the crew, soft yet heavy as stone. Run if you wish, children of dust. Your time has begun. The return journey was silent. No one on the ship spoke as stars drifted past the windows. The crew felt the weight of what they had seen pressing down on them. Even the hum of the engine sounded hollow, like a whisper in a graveyard. Every mind held the same thought. They had woken gods. Captain Arya sat in her chair with her eyes fixed on the black void ahead. She replayed the words of the white-eyed giant over and over. Prove yourselves. Show you are more than destruction. She did not know how humanity could ever prove such a thing. How could they stand before beings that had shaped stars? The silence was broken when the ship's alarms screamed. Red lights flashed across the room. Kai checked the console, and his face went pale. Captain, they followed us. Arya's chest tightened. She had known this might happen, but hearing it confirmed was worse. She looked at the screen. Behind them, space rippled as if reality itself was bending. Out of the darkness stepped not one, but 3 glowing figures. They were smaller than the first 2, yet still massive, each carrying a different light. One shone silver, one glowed with deep blue, and one burned with golden fire. The crew froze in horror. The Eternals were not waiting to wake slowly. They were already rising, one after another. Drawn by the humans who had dared to disturb their sleep, the golden-eyed figure spoke first, its voice proud and sharp. These are the children who touched the seal. These are the ones who broke silence. I say they are guilty. They should be erased before they rise further. The silver-eyed one answered in a calmer tone. We should not rush. They are small, yes, but small flames can grow. Let us see what path they choose. The blue-eyed figure remained quiet for a long moment before speaking. Its voice was deep and slow, like the sound of waves. I see fear in them. Fear can destroy, but it can also build strength. We must decide not with haste, but with truth. The ship shook as the three giants moved closer. The crew felt like insects caught between mountains. Kai whispered, Captain, this is it. They'll destroy us here. But then the white-tide giant appeared again, stepping from the shadows of space as if it had been waiting. Its presence calmed the air, though fear still gripped every heart. Brothers, sisters, listen. Do not strike yet. Let them speak. Let them prove they are worthy of the stars. The golden-eyed one snarled. You defend them again, but I see only danger. They climb too fast. They build weapons that can burn worlds. If we wait, they will become like the old enemies, the ones we erased. The blue-eyed figure turned toward the humans. Its eyes glowed deep and heavy. Then let them answer. Children of dust, why do you seek the stars? Do you come as conquerors or as builders? Do you come to take or to learn? The question struck deep. Arya stood, though her legs trembled. She faced the glowing giants, her voice strong even as fear twisted inside her. We are many things. We are not perfect. We fight, we fall, but we rise again. We did not come to steal the stars. We came because we are small, and the stars remind us we can be more. We came to learn, not to destroy. For a moment, silence stretched across the void. The giants stared at her, unreadable, their lights shifting and pulsing. Then the golden one roared, Lies. All of them say they wish to learn, but in the end, they burn. That is their nature. That is their curse. The wide-eyed giant lifted its hand. Enough. Judge them not by your fear. Judge them by their choice. The silver-eyed one spoke softly. Then let us give them a choice. Let them prove if they are more than hunger. The crew exchanged nervous looks. They did not know what kind of test the Eternals would give, but they knew it would decide everything. The golden giant leaned forward, fire burning in its eyes. If they fail, they die. The ship shook as the giant surrounded it. Energy readings spiked higher than ever. The crew braced themselves, waiting for the strike that might never come. Instead, the blue-eyed one raised its hand. A pulse of light spread outward, wrapping the ship like a wave. The crew gasped as visions filled their minds. They saw Earth, its oceans and mountains, its cities glowing in the night. They saw families, wars, laughter, and sorrow. The Eternals were searching again, looking into the very soul of humanity. The silver giant's voice filled the silence. We will watch. We will test. If you are as you claim, then prove it. But know this, humans. Every step you take, every choice you make among the stars will be seen. If you fall to greed, if you bring only fire, then the judgment you fear will come. The golden eyes burned hotter, but the white-eyed giant's presence held them back. For now, the pulse of light faded, and the giants slowly withdrew into the darkness. But their voices lingered in the minds of the crew, sharp and heavy. Humanity had been given a chance, a test, and the cost of failure would be nothing less than extinction. Arya sat back in her chair, her hands shaking. She whispered to herself, They're watching us. Every step, every choice, and deep in the dark of space, unseen by human eyes. More chambers continued to glow, more Eternals rising from their endless sleep. The true judgment had only just begun. The ship drifted in silence long after the Eternals had vanished into the darkness. No one spoke. No one even moved. The crew sat frozen, as if afraid their very voices might bring the giants back. Only the low hum of the engines reminded them they were still alive. Captain Arya gripped the arms of her chair. Her knuckles were white, her breathing heavy. She thought of Earth. Millions of lives unaware of the storm that had just awakened in the void. The Eternals were not just watching her crew, they were watching all of humanity. One wrong step could bring fire upon every city and every world. Kai broke the silence. His voice was weak, almost a whisper. "Captain, what do we do now? We can't fight them. We can't hide from them. They'll see everything." Arya looked at him and then at the rest of the crew. Their faces were pale, their eyes filled with fear. She knew they were right. Weapons would be useless. Running would be useless. The Eternals had power beyond imagination. But she also knew something else. Humanity was not finished yet. "We go home," Arya said. "Earth must know. Every colony must know. If this is a test, then all of us must face it together." The crew nodded slowly. They did not like the answer, but it was the only one that made sense. Humanity could not survive divided. They would either stand as one or fall as one. Days passed as the ship made its way back through the cold stars. The journey felt endless. Each night the crew dreamt of glowing eyes watching them, of voices in their minds, of fire raining down on Earth. No one could escape the weight of those visions. When the ship finally entered Earth's orbit, silence fell again. Blue oceans and green lands stretched far below, beautiful and fragile. The crew looked at their home with new eyes. To the Eternals, Earth must have looked like a candle in the dark, a small light that could be blown out with a single breath. The ship's message was sent across the planet and beyond. To every colony and station, humanity listened in shock as Arya's voice carried through the networks. She told them everything: the sleeping structure, the awakening, the voices, the warning. The test, at first many refused to believe. It sounded like madness. Gods in the stars, voices in the mind. But then came the proof: the scans, the energy readings, the black box from the drone, and finally, the shared visions. When the crew replayed the strange pulses that had filled their minds, people across Earth felt them too. The truth could not be denied. Humanity had woken something greater than them. Panic spread like fire. Some called for surrender. They said humanity should bow to the Eternals, kneel before them as servants, and hope for mercy. Others called for war. They shouted that humans should build weapons strong enough to face gods, even if it cost everything. The world split into voices of fear, anger, and pride. Arya watched the chaos with heavy eyes. This was what the Eternals had warned about. Humanity was already showing its weakness: fear and division. If they continued, the judgment would come swiftly. She knew they needed a choice, not just words, but action that would prove humanity's worth. She gathered her crew one final time. "We cannot control the Eternals," she said, "but we can control ourselves. If they are watching, then let them see what we truly are. Not greed, not hunger, but sacrifice, unity, hope." The crew stared at her, uncertain. Then Kai nodded. "If they want to see our worth, we'll show them, even if it costs us everything." The decision came sooner than anyone expected. Only hours later, alarms filled Earth's skies. A ripple in space tore open above the moon. Another Eternal had woken, one with burning orange eyes. Its presence filled the sky like a second sun. The world froze in fear. The giant's voice rolled over the planet, heavy and merciless. "You rise too fast. You climb too high. Your fire spreads, and it will consume all. You are not worthy." Panic swept the earth. Missiles were prepared, weapons armed, but Arya knew none of it would matter. The orange-eyed giant raised its hand, power gathering like a storm. One strike could burn the world. Humanity's end was seconds away, and then Arya made her choice. She activated the ship's engines and pushed them to full power. The vessel rose from orbit, straight toward the giant. Her crew cried out, realizing what she was about to do. "Captain, no," Kai shouted. Arya's voice was calm. "If humanity must be judged, let them see this. Let them see we are more than fear. Let them see we will stand even against gods. The ship raced upward, glowing with fire as its engines burned. The orange-eyed Eternal turned, its hand ready to strike. But then the white-eyed figure appeared again, standing between Arya's tiny ship and the wrath of its brother. The white eyes burned brighter than ever. "Enough," it thundered. "Look at them. Fragile, yet they rise. Small, yet they choose to fight even when they cannot win. This is not greed. This is not hunger. This is something greater." The orange-eyed giant froze, its power fading for a moment. The whole world watched as two gods stood in silence, one ready to destroy, the other ready to defend. Arya closed her eyes, her ship glowing brighter as it drew closer to the Colossus. She did not know if she would live. She only hoped her sacrifice would mean something. And in that moment, the judgment of humanity hung in the balance. The ship streaked upward like a flame against the endless dark. Its engines roared as Captain Arya pushed it straight toward the Colossus with orange eyes. Every system screamed warnings. Heat filled the cabin, and the crew held on in silence. They knew this was the end, yet no one turned away. The orange-eyed giant lifted its hand again. Energy swirled around it, bright enough to blind, strong enough to tear the earth apart. Humanity held its breath. Every city, every colony, every ship waited for the blow that would decide their fate. But the white-eyed figure moved first. Its great hand spread wide, and the storm of energy froze in the giant's grasp. The two gods faced each other, ancient and vast, their power crackling across the sky. The world trembled under their gaze. The orange-eyed one spoke, voice like fire. "They are dangerous. Their hunger will spread across the stars. They will consume, as others did before. You know this. You have seen it." The white-eyed one answered with a calm voice that rolled like thunder. "Yes, they are dangerous. But they are also different. They choose sacrifice over fear. They rise even when there is no hope. That spark makes them more than destroyers." Arya's ship drew closer, glowing like a comet. Her crew cried out for her to stop, but her hands never left the controls. She knew her life meant little compared to billions of lives below. If her death was the price to show humanity's worth, she would pay it without fear. The white-eyed figure turned its gaze upon the small ship. For the first time since its awakening, its voice softened. "Child of Earth, you need not burn yourself. You have already shown enough." Ship's systems flickered. The engines slowed. Arya felt a strange calm fill her mind, like a hand resting on her shoulder. Her breath came heavy, her vision blurred, but she heard the words. She heard the promise. The orange-eyed giant lowered its hand slowly, though anger burned in its glowing eyes. If they fail, if they spread as the others did, it will be the end of them. You cannot shield them forever. The white-eyed one stood firm. Then let them prove themselves. Let them walk their path, not in fear, but in choice. The storm in the orange eyes faded at last. The giant stepped back, its shape dissolving into the void like smoke. The sky cleared, the stars returned, and Earth remained untouched. The people below wept in relief, though none truly understood how close they had come to ending. Arya's ship drifted, engines dead, systems failing. But it did not fall. A soft light wrapped around it, carrying it gently back toward orbit. The white-eyed figure spoke one last time, its words echoing across the minds of every living human. "Your fire burns bright, but the test is not over. We will watch. We will wait. Rise wisely, children of Earth." Then, like the others, the figure vanished into the darkness, leaving only silence behind. The crew sat trembling. Kai wiped his face, unable to tell if he was crying or sweating. He looked at Arya, still at the controls, and whispered, "You saved us. You saved everyone." Arya shook her head weakly. "Not me. All of us. Humanity saved itself by choosing hope." When they returned to Earth, they were greeted not as explorers, but as messengers. The story spread across every colony, every ship, every settlement. The people argued, feared, doubted, but they could not deny the truth. The gods had spoken. Humanity had been judged and spared for now. For the first time in centuries, The nations of Earth gathered as one. Old wars and old grudges seemed smaller under the shadow of what had come. The question was no longer who would rule the Earth, but how Earth would survive together. Arya watched these meetings from afar. She knew the path ahead would not be easy. Humanity was flawed, fragile, often blinded by greed and anger. But she also knew something greater now. Deep inside, people carried the spark the gods had seen. The spark of sacrifice, courage, and hope. One night, she stood at the edge of a great city, staring at the stars above. She remembered the glowing eyes, the voices that filled her mind, the silence that followed. She did not know if the gods were watching at that moment, but she raised her hand to the sky anyway, as if in answer. "Watch us then," she whispered. "We will not waste this chance." Across the stars, though unseen, something stirred in the darkness. The Eternals remained silent, waiting, watching. Humanity's story was only beginning. The sleeping gods had woken. And now, the children of Earth had to decide if they were worthy of the stars.